Hi everybody, this is David Collins from Arbor Guitars. In this third video of our series, we're going to start looking at the volume potentiometer. Again, we're starting from just a single coil, and right now we're just going to be looking at a master volume. We're not getting into split independent volumes for parallel pickups just yet. That's coming in a later video. We covered the values earlier, and you can certainly see a bit of a difference on the chart when you switch from 1 meg down to 500, 250 in the common range kilo ohm potentiometers. In this case, we're going to stay with the 500 for right now and start to look at how the tapers can be used for volume, how both audio and linear can certainly be applied. The audio taper pot is traditionally thought of as the standard go-to for volume potentiometers. And in fact, when you look at this chart, as I start to roll it back, you will see a fairly smooth pan until we get down there at the noise floor. Not the cleanest electrical environment up here to do testing. But you can see a fairly smooth taper. There's 10, down to 5, and pretty much cut out at around 1. That's when it fully engages the ground on the wiper. So it looks good on the chart, but things can change drastically when you plug it in, because what we're not seeing here is the effect on the amplifier and where it begins to load the amplifier as you turn it down and quiet the amplifier, not just the pickups. We're also not seeing the effect from compression and overdrive, which you will see when we start to plug in and do the listening tests. Now let's go to linear potentiometer. You can see no difference, of course, when the volume's on 10. But as we roll back, it's a much more gradual change. The 10 down to 5, we see very little change in the linear compared to the audio. Here's where we would be with audio in that same position. Roll it down toward the bottom, and by the time we get to 2, we are roughly where we would be at 5 on the linear pot. But then we get a fairly rapid roll off at the very bottom. There's just before the signal drops, and then it's gone, right in there between 2 and 1. So the linear pot has a much slower fade out in the top half and a more rapid roll off at the very bottom. This may seem like it would be inappropriate for volume control, but in fact, once we've engaged the amplifier and are putting it into application the way people typically use them, linear pots can often be preferred. As of today, I would estimate well over half of the guitars being manufactured come from the factory with linear taper potentiometers. Gibson started using them in 1973, and many other makers have followed suit since then. Now let's go ahead and plug it in and see what it sounds like in application through an amp. Volume pot tapers can be quite different depending on how you use them. Let's start with an audio taper 500K pot through a clean tube amp. And you can see there's a very rapid roll-off as we perceive in this setting with the audio taper. Let's try that again with try that one more time. It's really too rapid for a lot of players. However, let's kick into overdrive a little bit and see what happens. Rather than killing the volume very quickly, it gave us a really quick cleanup from about 10 to 7, where we can start to adjust the volume a little bit more gradually in the 3 to 6 range. So it's certainly useful for this type of playing if you want to be able to roll back quickly from an overdrive into your clean mode. Let's switch back to clean though and compare the audio and the linear. There's the quick rollback that a lot of people don't care for with audio tapers. With linear, that usable range over a much wider area. It does, however, come with a more rapid roll-off at the bottom compared to audio. So audio pots can give smoother swells when you're fading in from 0. Let's try it through a solid state. Audio pot gives a very rapid roll off when we're up at the top end, but a nice fairly smooth fade at the bottom. Linear, spreads out that usable range over a wider span of the pot. So either one can be fine. Another case where whatever works best for you is the right choice. There is no ultimate right or wrong answer. So as you can see, the audio taper pot certainly has its strength for that quick cleanup as you start to roll back, and then a much more gradual fade at the bottom end. But if you're playing clean, this rapid roll off from 10 to 7 on an audio taper pot can actually be a detriment for a lot of players. And in spite of what we see on the graph here, seeming to imply that the linear is too slow at the top, once you've engaged the other end of the cable into the amplifier circuit and incorporated with that, linear taper potentiometers can actually give a smoother rollback and more sensitive range of volume controls for a lot of clean players. So for volume pots, linear or audio can work equally fine, and it really depends on how you're going to use it and what kind of sensitivity you want in various ranges of the pot. Now there are things we can do to modify that taper, which we're going to get into a little bit in future videos. But in the end, it really is up to the player. There is no right or wrong answer. Either will work fine. It just depends on what you want to use it for and what demands you have of the potentiometer. Please tune in for our next video where we're going to start looking at the tonal effects of rolling the volume back and treble bleed circuits and how they can be incorporated both to retain the high end as you roll the volume back and actually to affect the taper of a potentiometer. Thanks so much for watching, and we'll see you soon.